Welcome back to Tennis.com headquarters. I'm Ed McGrogan with Pete Bodo. Pete, usually you're standing next to Nick Bollettieri in a lot of our videos at the U.S. Open. He's helped us out over the years, and some nice news for him this year. Recently announced that he'll be inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame in Newport. You've known him for a long time. Maybe tell us a little bit about Nick's really esteemed career and something maybe we don't know about him.
Well, I don't know if there's much that we don't know about Nick because he's a pretty well-known guy. But, I think his career has been just remarkable. He's basically developed 10 number ones or more at this point. I don't even know. But, go down the list from Monica Seles, Maria Sharapova, Jimmy Arias, Jim Courier. And, even Jim Courier, look at some of the things he said. He was on the outs with Nick for a while there, but now, he came back and just a couple of weeks ago made some statements about how, sort of taking blame for the fact that he was resented the fact that Nick stayed with Andre Agassi. So, he developed all these players, and he also, but more importantly, I think he really shaped the game, for better or worse, the way it's played today. This whole concept of hitting your big serve, stepping in, taking that forehand, hitting that approach shot, basically your forehand big, going for the approach shot that actually is more of going for a winner than an approach. This is all really Nick's work. I think he sort of helped develop what I always call the one world style, where basically everybody pretty much plays the same way. And granted, there are always some different players. There are always players who will serve and volley. There are always players who will do things a little bit differently. But he really is responsible for the way the game is being played today.
He definitely has kind of developed a factory, if you will, of just one great player after another. And you're right about the trends the game has taken because of Nick. Now, a lot of people would say that Nick actually should have been in the Hall of Fame a little while ago. And I think that accounts for some of his personality, the way he approaches the game. It's not a conventional way, I think, as you suggest there. So what would you say kind of to where, Nick finally getting in maybe after some years of, unjust about him? Well,
one of the big themes in tennis since the birth of the Open era has been this constant tension and conflict between tradition and progress, between tennis as an elitist, snobby game and tennis as a democratic, egalitarian game. These tensions have always existed, and for a long time, because, look, the Hall of Fame is fundamentally in the hands of some pretty conservative people, tennis-wise. And so Nick, I think, rubbed a lot of people a long way early in his career. He basically had, there's a whole thing about, he never wore a shirt, he had sunglasses on, he had fast cars, he was a controversial guy. So there was a lot of resistance to Nick. A lot of people questioned, a lot of people accused him of saying his greatest talent was for self-promotion. But look, the bottom line is you talk to the players, you look at his track record, you see who he developed, see who came out of that academy, and there's just no denying it. Finally, I think the breakthrough came. I think enough people, and Nick did a good job lobbying on his own behalf, pulling aside people who maybe would have a little influence, saying, look, write me a letter, let them know I'm interested, this is important to me. And finally, I think the worm turned, and he got in this year.
And he's not resting on his laurels either this year. He'll be in the Hall of Fame, as I say, when the tour comes to Newport right after Wimbledon. He also, at 82, just wrote his second book, and, we've heard a lot about that, too, when you've been speaking to him the past few U.S. Opens. Finally off the ground.
Yes, Nick was very, very excited about it. The funny thing is his working title, going back to something we were talking about earlier, is his working title for the book had been Nothing is Easy. And, there's a certain amount of truth in that. And he's been through a lot of ups and downs, in fact. In addition to his 8 wives, there have been other ups and downs in his life, too. But his new book is called Changing the Game. That's what he finally decided on. He's out there promoting the heck out of it. You can get it through his website or just by Googling Changing the Game, Nick Bollettieri. And no, he's tireless. And this is astonishing. This is a man who does not wear glasses in his 82nd year. This is a man who still has his original teeth, his own, And this is a man who wakes up at 5:30 in the morning to just a pulsating blue light, then does this extreme workout at home, push-ups, sit-ups, the whole 9 yards, and then heads to work. And the key thing is Nick loves what he does. He loves his job. He's going to continue with this job. Let's keep track of how long it'll be, 95 years old. Let's see if he can be the first 100-year-old tennis coach in history.
There's a lot more in the book than we just went over here, but there's a lot to say about Nick, obviously. So check it out, and thank you for visiting Tennis.com.